A mother is warning people not to be complacent about their allergies after her son had a near-fatal allergic reaction.
George Cadman-Ithell now receives round-the-clock care in hospital after eating a salami which contained walnuts, to which he's allergic, in September. We're going to speak to George's mum, Louise Cadman, in just a moment. First, here's James Goodison with his story.
George Cadman-Ithell was just 5 years old when he was diagnosed with an allergy to tree nuts, which includes cashews, walnuts and almonds. Despite doing his best to avoid triggering his allergy, in September he unintentionally ate a snack containing walnuts. In panic texts with his mother Louise, George realised his error. She continued to message him, asking if he was okay, to which he replied, "Not really." Louise urged George to call 999, but when he stopped responding, she rushed to his flat where he was in cardiac arrest, despite running home to use his adrenaline pen, something that Louise thinks worsened his condition. George remains in a vegetative state, but is now showing signs of awareness. His recovery is uncertain, but his family are determined to raise awareness about the importance of checking ingredients if diagnosed with an allergy.
And George's mum, Louise, joins us now alongside Tanya Ednan-Laperouse, whose daughter Natasha died in 2016 from a severe allergic reaction after eating a baguette which she did not know included sesame as one of the ingredients to which she was allergic. Thank you both for being with us. Louise, first, how is George doing right now?
He's still in a very fragile condition. The doctors did tell us yesterday that they hope, they believe he's starting to show some awareness because he's become quite distressed over the last few days, which is a sort of double-edged sword there, because if he's showing some awareness, then hopefully he's coming back to us in some way. But he's not able to move or communicate or anything at the moment. But he's breathing entirely on his own, and his body's done a good job otherwise of keeping him, well over the last 11 weeks.
And until this happened, it was a mild allergy.
Absolutely.
He hadn't had attacks like this.
Absolutely.
How did he spend his time? What kind of lad was he?
He was, well, he's 25 now, 25 going on more sort of 65. He'd go to museums and galleries with his husband and go to the BFI and watch old films and, listen to classical music. And he was quite an old soul, really, but very gentle, kind, no temper there, just a lovely boy.
In the circumstances he was in, he's normally very aware. He knows what his allergy is. He knows exactly what to check for.
Yeah.
But what happened to George is something that really could happen to anyone with an allergy.
Yeah.
Which is, you're in a rush, you grab something, you kind of make an assumption about what's in it. Perhaps the ingredient you should be aware of is in a different language. And then you find that you've eaten something and you're having an allergic reaction. In those circumstances, previously, his treatment has been very effective, hasn't it?
Yeah, he'd just taken liquid antihistamine, if at all, because sometimes he'd had a few reactions in the past, but they had got milder as the years had gone on. Right. The worst reactions were when he was sort of 5, 6, 7 years old. Over the last few years, it's just been sort of, on rare occasions when it had happened, less than once a year, swollen lips, itchy throat, might feel a bit sick, but, he'd be fine an hour or two later.
So when he was texting you, you must have, like any mum, going to feel quite worried. And you say, don't you, have you got the EpiPen? You've got your adrenaline pen. What happened next?
So what we think had happened was he was in the store and he was on the phone and he was moving home the next day. So he was, his mind was elsewhere, and then he's picked up this snack. We think, he normally bought the non-nut version and just thought that was what he was buying. Then, like I say, he started to message me. And it was obviously a worse reaction than he'd had for a very long time, or if ever. But it was made the worse by he then deciding to run home to try to get to his EpiPen because
Was he out of the habit of carrying his EpiPen with him?
Absolutely, and he only
hadn't used it.
He'd never used it. He'd never needed to use it. He'd never been admitted to hospital or had a severe reaction previously. They'd all been mild reactions, and he only had the EpiPen in the house because he'd graduated just a few months before, and I took him on a holiday to celebrate, and as part of the travel insurance, he had to have his EpiPen because I declared his allergy.
The idea of carrying his EpiPen with him was just not being part of...
Before we were, I said, don't forget your EpiPen when we go on holiday. He's like, I haven't got one. He'd let it expire. He hadn't lived at home for 5 years.
So he realised it was at home.
Yeah.
And then he ran home.
Which is the worst thing he could have done, which George didn't know and I didn't know. And many people don't know that when you're having anaphylaxis, when you're having a severe reaction, your blood pressure drops dangerously low. And what you should really do is just lie down and put your legs up and call an ambulance. By running home, he made the reaction so much worse than it would have been.
That's in the National Health Service guidance, but not something that you or he would...
I was saying to Tanya earlier, since this story came out at the weekend, I've had nurses in the hospital come to me and say they didn't know.
Yes.
Don't run.
Don't run. Don't run. Just lie down and get help to come to you.
Tanya, I think often we don't find out what we need to do until it's beyond the point where we needed to have done it. And that's so difficult, isn't it? I mean, you're in the worst situation. We know you lost your lovely daughter, Natasha. She, again, very aware of her allergies, but in your case, just wasn't even indicated, was it, on the label?
No, that's right. So the label had other ingredients on it, but it didn't name the sesame seeds, and you couldn't see them. They were baked into the dough of the bread. And she had a catastrophic allergic reaction on board a BA flight, and she died that day. Now, it's just, I think what's really difficult here is that George's story will resonate with so many people who think they have a mild allergy. And if someone has been prescribed with an adrenaline auto-injector like an EpiPen, they have to understand, yes, you may have had a mild allergic reaction, but it doesn't mean the next one will be. Always carry your auto-injectors with you. You should have 2 prescribed to you. Have them with you at all times. If you feel that you're having an allergic reaction and you're feeling worried, you think it could be anaphylaxis, you absolutely inject yourself with an injector pen. If it isn't anaphylaxis, it won't harm you at all, but it's important to do it as soon as possible. And 999, call for emergency help and lie down. Do not go anywhere. You shouldn't even walk to the ambulance. They should put you in a stretcher and put you in the ambulance.
It's so brave of both of you, but also so important what you're saying to us today, because the truth is you needed to watch a Good Morning Britain episode and see this and think, that's something we need to have in our minds, and you didn't have that moment.
I would just say I don't think it's brave. I think it would have been selfish of me not to share what's happened to George, because it's just devastated us, and I just can't bear the thought of it happening to somebody else.
I think there will be a lot of people watching who are in the similar situation with a child or themselves with multiple food allergies, who think they're being incredibly careful all of the time, and who might think, well, up until this point, I've dealt with it with antihistamines, so as long as I've got my antihistamines, I'm all right. And if I need my EpiPen or my auto-injector, I'll go home. But the important information that you're both getting across is take the pen, not the risk. Take it with you. If you feel the beginning of what feels like a reaction, use it. It's not going to have any effect on you that's negative if it's not needed. But if it is needed, you've injected it. And don't go anywhere. Get someone to bring it to you. And I think it's absolutely vital information, and we can't get it across enough, I think. Because as you say, Louise, no one wants to be in the position where, as a mum, you're just waiting on the doctor's every word.
And then, his husband is just lost without George. They were each other's world, and it's it's just had such a devastating impact. His brother and sisters, and my mother, who's just was so close to George, and yeah.
Our love to both of you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much indeed, and best wishes for recovery.
Thank you.
George, I hope the best outcome happens. Thank you so much. Both
Thank
of
you.
Thank you for speaking out.
Thank you.
Absolutely right. So if you're affected by that issue, or indeed any of the very sensitive issues, important issues we discussed in the programme, there is advice and support at itv.com/helplines.